So over the weekend, we had the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, I must say, I'm a curmudgeonly, old, cynical asshole when it comes to this. I don't think there should be a White House Correspondents' Dinner. I don't think there should be because it's just flaunting the corruption and the collusion in our face. How you have the mainstream media and the politicians, they might pretend to be against each other, but they all know each other, and they all like each other, and they're all powerful, and they all make a lot of money, and they all control a lot of stuff. So when you get them all together and they sit in a room and they circle jerk each other and they laugh and have a good time, what, you don't think that affects them when they're supposed to be objective on Monday? You don't think that they come into the studio and think, I was going to do that segment where I go after President Obama harshly, but I kind of like him, and he did a good stand-up routine, and he was friendly to me, so I don't want to, hey, icky drone war that kills 90% the wrong people, but I don't want to talk about it because he's my friend. I know he doesn't mean it. So I think it destroys what little objectivity remains, if there is any, in the mainstream media. So I think it's a bad night. Again, I get it, I'm a curmudgeonly asshole, but just imagine looking at this through the lens of if this was a different country, and you had Russia do a state dinner with their media figures, and they all yuck it up and laugh together. Everybody go, oh, it's obvious. They're not going to be critical of the people in power. They're friends with them. Look, you see it right here. But for us, what? People still think, oh, yeah, no, we'll be critical on Monday. No, they won't. No, they won't. So I hate it. I'm not a fan of it. And Larry Wilmore was the comedian who did, the final stand-up routine. By the way, side note here, I think the president should close and the comedian should be second to last because no normal human can follow the most powerful man on earth. And Obama actually has pretty good comedic timing. Other presidents may not have. I really don't know. But Obama's comedic timing is fantastic. So to follow him when he was really funny, hard to do. But anyway, he said something that is causing quite a bit of controversy here. Let's watch.
When I was a kid, I lived in a country where people couldn't accept a black quarterback. Now think about that. A black man was thought by his mere color not good enough to lead a football team. And now, to live in your time, Mr. President, when a black man can lead the entire free world. Words alone do me no justice. So, Mr. President, if I'm going to keep it 100, yo, Barry, you did it, my nigga. Did it. Thank you very much. Good night.
So, the usual suspects were onto this, and they were angry about it. You had, honestly, it was, I think, both extremes. There were some people on the far left. I saw some articles where there were, people on the far left who were saying, like, black people didn't come this far to get called the N-word at the White House, things to that effect. And then it was mostly outrage from people on the far right where, they can't help themselves. Where they're like, yeah, well, what if it was Jeff Foxworthy or Larry the Cable Guy who said something like that? Then wouldn't everybody be mad? Yeah, because they're a different person. That's not Larry Wilmore. So, okay, let's have the same conversation we've had 412 times before. Context! People who disregard context are silly people. And they're working backwards from their conclusion. So they want to get mad at the liberals. So they're just looking for things. How do I fucking call them out and act like I got them? And they find something like this. Like, no, I'm so offended you use the N-word. I'm so offended. So wait a second. The people who are on the far right, who defend, for example, Rush Limbaugh's Barack the Magic Negro segment, now all of a sudden, when a black liberal comedian uses it in solidarity with the president, I'm so outraged! I'm so outraged! Well, why the fuck are you disregarding context? Let me make this as simple as possible. You have a old white dude who's a conservative Republican from the South who used to be pro-segregation, and he sees a black guy on the street, and he calls him an Nigger, and he says it in a derogatory way where he's speaking down to the person. He doesn't like the person. I think that's a little different than, for example, one young black man saying it to another young black man who's been his best friend for 8 years, and they say it in an endearing way when they're saying hi to each other. To try to pretend like those two things are the same, you would have to be an idiot. You'd have to be so stupid. But that's what they're trying to do. It's old white conservatives trying to dictate to liberal black males when they can and cannot use the word. Come on, man. How do you not see how ridiculous that is? And for people who say, well, hold on, Kyle, you've created a double standard. My answer is, fuck yeah, I have. Sometimes a double standard makes sense. Black people in the country have a history where at first they were slaves, then there was Jim Crow, then there was segregation, now there's the new Jim Crow where drug laws disproportionately target them even though blacks and whites use drugs at similar rates. And they have a certain context and a certain history. So when somebody from within the community says it in an endearing way and it's N-I-G-G-A to somebody else within the community, that's totally different than somebody from outside of the community who's been against them and who's on the far right saying it and it's N-I-G-G-E-R. It's not the same thing. Stop pretending it's the same thing. You're insulting all of our intelligence when you do that. But they can't help themselves. And then that leads to the final point on this. Now, I'm equally against people on the far left who tried to lib out on this and say, like, we didn't come this far for you to use the N-word at the president like that. I disagree with them just as much as I disagree with people on the far right here. But again, most of the outrage was on the far right. And what I would say is, hold on. You guys are the guys who claim you're the most in favor of free speech and you're the most against PC outrage. So why the fuck are you doing PC outrage? Why have you become the PC police? Why are you trying to censor free speech? And let me be clear about something. If some old white conservative Republican from the South says N-I-G-G-E-R against a young black kid, am I saying you throw that person in jail or you censor them? Of course not. Of course that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, can you draw certain conclusions from that about that person? Fuck yeah. You want to call that person racist? You're right. That person is overwhelmingly likely to be racist. They just called a young black kid N-I-G-G-E-R, and they're an old white man from the South. Okay, so don't get mad at us when we draw accurate conclusions about you. You don't draw the same conclusion when it's Larry Wilmore in the midst of a comedy skit, and he's a liberal black man saying it to the first black president to try to pretend like that's racist, it's racist. No, you're making that up. You're making that up. So stop with your PC outrage. Stop with your attempt to shut down free speech. I'm in favor of free speech across the board. You want to say it and you're an old white man and it ends in ER, by all means, but we're going to draw conclusions about that. I don't want to lock you up. I don't want to do anything legal against you. It shouldn't be the case. You have the right to say anything you want, but I am going to call you racist because you're probably racist. And it's not the same when somebody like Larry Wilmore says it to the president. So stop trying to pretend like when it's used within the black community in an endearing way and there's an A at the end of it, that it is equal to an old white conservative saying it with ER at the end. It's just not. And when you try to disregard context, you're insulting everybody's intelligence because we all have eyes, we all have ears, we all know the intent, we all know the context and the perspective, and you're trying to gloss all that aside because here's the most important point. They really want to say it. They really want to say it. That's what it comes down to. Everybody on the right that's mad about this, just be honest. Just come out and say it. Why can't they say the N-word, but when I say it, people done call me racist? I don't get it. If he can say it, I should be able to say it. I'm going to say it. I saw you say it. Now I'm going to say it. Are you ready for this? I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. They just want to say it so bad. They want to say it so bad because it's taboo, and they know that people draw certain conclusions about them when they say it, and they just don't like liberals. So I'm going to fight the liberals. I'm going to come out against liberals. I'm going to say it. Y'all ready?